Welcome back, everybody. It is such a great honor to have all of you joining us today. And today I'm actually going to be talking about something that really, it actually blows your mind. Why? Well, I've actually did a little study behind this. And what I actually came to realize is from the studies, 63% of entrepreneurs in the real estate space actually, they actually report that they feel burnt out. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, feeling that burns out. So, a warm welcome to everybody. This is Elite Masterminds, where we have a number of guests that come into this particular session. These are guests that have been, I call them veterans. They are people that have achieved high levels of success in their particular business over the years. And they've experienced what we generally talk about. They share their tips, they share their secrets a lot of the times, but really, they actually give some very strong advice, helping each and every individual in this real estate space to actually succeed in their business. And the topic that we're going to be talking about today is avoiding that burnout and actually staying motivated. It is such an important task. And as I mentioned, when I did my research, it actually showed that roughly 63% of entrepreneurs in this real estate space have actually reported that they feel burnt out. Now, that's a statistic which, well, you're going to say, hey, that's a bit crazy. Fortunately, I fall into the 37%. But there was another part of it that really blew my mind. When they started to have the discussions with the 63%, the response actually almost got me to fall off my chair. You see, the response on it was, well, that's normal. And that for me was, that's not normal. It's not normal to feel burnt out. It's not normal to wake up every morning and actually be searching for the energy to get through the particular day. It's definitely not normal. So a lot of people are experiencing the burnout. But we need to find ways that we can stay motivated, that we can actually avoid those particular burnouts. So joining me today is David. Now, David, give us a quick little introduction. You've been in the real estate space for many, many years, and give us an idea how long you've been in real estate and really your journey that you've actually experienced. Give us in a little highlight.
Hi, I'm sorry about the background noise. I am in a coffee shop here, Mug and Bean. Yeah, and they don't respect my space. But anyway, I did my first board exam in 1994, I think it was, or three, when it was still, we did the cash flow projections and all that. So that was my first board exam. And I've been involved with real estate since then. I've owned my own franchise, which was very, very successful. It yielded the top agent in the country, and that agent became 52nd in the world. So I have a bit of a background of mentoring agents, and what I find is that the time management is the one that catches us all out. What we don't do is we don't seem to block time off for certain activities. And because we don't do that, we're grabbing at straws and we're trying to hit that fire out and that the other fire out. And because of our behavior, responding like that, we're actually teaching our clients how to treat us. So, and that will eventually lead to a burnout because you've got so many things to do and you really don't know when you're going to do it because you haven't got a plan. You haven't got an idea of what to do. So what I have done is, when you're ready, Stuart, I have got a list of things that I think we should look out for. Some practical tips on how we could address the avoiding of burnout. And then obviously, how do we maintain our motivation? Right? Remember, there's a saying in English that says, you can take a horse to the water, but you cannot make them drink. So I can tell you all you'd like to hear, but until you physically action it, it's not going to mean a thing to anybody. Okay.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you raised that point of time management, because In that exact same survey, where 63% of the entrepreneurs in the real estate space had actually noted that they felt burnout, and they thought, well, that's just normal. It actually did go one step further. And that very first question is, tell me about your day. And their day was typically, well, I'm waiting for a phone call. When it happens, I start moving. And they're actually in this almost this responsive way, awaiting for people to come through. So, starting out with time management, I think, is absolutely crucial. Now, before we get into your tips and how you actually handle it, give us an idea of your time management day. How do you schedule your day? Break it down in your particular business so that you don't hit that burnout and you're in control and not setting the precedence that, hey, when you phone, I drop and I run. So give us an idea of your particular time management schedule that you've implemented.
Okay, so I try to break my day up into sections, and those sections consist of when I start out in the day, and that is to spend time building my spiritual side. So I spend time in the Word of God, and I pray, and once that's all handled, we jump into breakfast and preparation. Once that's handled, I then move into scanning all my WhatsApp messages and emails. Note what is important, because as Stuart mentioned about the percentage of people that burn out, it's the same thing that applies with your messages, same thing that applies with your emails. The Pareto principle is something that I ascribe to, which is the 80-20 principle. So only 20% of the messages you get are going to be actually important messages. And again, if you break that down further, only 20% of them are going to be urgent. So I try to look at what is urgent and needs action as soon as possible. Then I put time aside to respond to those people. The next step is lead generation. I put time aside to lead generate, and then in that time period, in my time period, I don't put 2 hours aside, I put 3 hours aside. And in that time period, then what I would do is I would look for, I'd follow up on my marketing campaigns that I'm doing. I do postings. I would do my farming, basically, look at the area that I'm working in, and then do my campaigns into that area, be it a Facebook posting, be it a WhatsApp, be it a TikTok, whatever. And once that's done, obviously the rest of the day would then be put to aside for appointments. Now, if I haven't got appointments secured for those times, then what I do is, in the interim, I will then fill in with admin and follow up, and again, lead generation as much as possible. And that, I think, in a nutshell, is how I deal with it.
No, fantastic. So there you can see a very clear structure that actually goes by. So, starting in the morning with a spiritual breakfast, so important to get that breakfast with the prep and planning, then moving into messages. And I love the way you brought in Pareto's principle, the 80-20, 20%, those are your priorities, what we refer to as the big rocks. Then you actually said only 20% of them are actually that important. What I call that extreme Pareto. That's the 20% of the 20%. So in fact, only 5% of what those messages come through are actually ones that should actually be actionable. It's then responding, having a look at those messages, responding to them, and then getting into the key part. And that is that lead generation for 3 hours. Now, one thing that really stood out for myself, David, was when you start looking at lead generation, you actually had a plan. You actually had a format, whether it's social media, whether it's going through marketing, whether it's actually calling clients. You've actually got that plan that is in place that gives you that structure. Now, everything that you've discussed, you're in control. You're in absolute control of it. No one's telling you, hey, David, you need to do this. You're actually in control of it, which definitely reduces all of those stress and anxiety. And then one key point, and this is something that actually defines a difference between a standard entrepreneur in the real estate space and a high-performing one. And that was those appointments in the afternoon. If there's no appointments, instead of you saying, hey, let me actually do some Netflix, you're actually going, wait a minute, let me actually earn that time back, do a little bit of administrative work. If administrative work's not done, let me lead generate. I need to fill my diary. Now, through this process, David, and this is the last question I want to ask on time management. How often do you allow a client to interrupt any one of these in your particular diary?
I try to leave messages that say something to the effect that I'm currently busy with listing a property, concluding a sale, and I'd love to do that for you. But once I'm done, I will get back to you. I return my calls during this time and that time. Please expect me to bring you back, let's say between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock, or 12 o'clock and 1 o'clock. And so the client is expecting a call. Obviously, then I need to call back. And on that basis, what you're doing is you're building a trust relationship. So that is how it is. And also the client sees you as being professional now, and not as being just another voice.
Absolutely. So you're actually setting that expectation right up front. And what we've learned is when you're setting expectations, you don't get that pressure of that demand coming back to yourself, which is absolutely. In fact, what you're doing is you're setting up a boundary and you're scheduling that particular boundary. I have space for you here. I don't have space for you here, but this is when I can communicate with yourself. So David, you'd mentioned that you've got a few tips that you'd love to share. So a good plan that individuals can actually use. Please share that with us so that our basically people on the call can actually learn from them and actually see how they can implement them in their particular business to almost stay motivated and reduce that burnout. Go for it.
Sure. So I've just gone onto another screen. I don't know how to share, so bear with me. We're going to touch on avoiding burnout. And just before I go into this, I do have a checklist. So if you want a copy of the checklist, I can send it to Stuart, and he can then forward it on to you. So just say yes in the chat box, and we'll follow up on that. So the first part with avoiding the burnout would be setting the boundaries. We've spoken about that, but how do you set the boundaries? Firstly, you got to define your working hours and stick to them. So if you say you're only going to work X amount of hours, that is what you do. You don't go out of that time frame. Otherwise, you're going to be overloading yourself with all kinds of unnecessary stress. So stick to the time frame. And one of the important things is to learn to say no. No to the unreasonable client demands. You know, you're going to get clients funny and say, I need to go see that property right now. You need to actually establish what the urgency is, and if it is that urgent, and then schedule the appointment that fits in with your program, and it's mutually convenient for the client as well. All right, so that's the first one, is to setting boundaries. Then one of the other things, admin can become quite hectic, especially when we look at the figures and we look up the following up, and then the of our leads. We're looking at the listing updates and all the paperwork that goes with that. So it might be worthwhile thinking about outsourcing some of those admin tasks, either to your partner or to a virtual secretary, if you like, a virtual person that can assist you on those specific tasks. It then frees you up to have more time to actually spend time in front of the client, because that's what you want to do. You want to be spending your time in front of clients and not be bound to a desk with paperwork. One of the ways you can also do that is using your CRM tools intelligently. And I say intelligently because sometimes we see the leads coming through, we see the notifications, and then we procrastinate and say, no, we'll get to it. But if you use your CRM tools properly, which includes not just your lead generation or your leads that you're receiving, it also includes things such as your what are you doing with marketing campaigns. So as your lead comes in, what are you doing with that lead? Is it a hot lead? Is it a cold lead? If it's a hot lead, what is the marketing program that you're going to put them into? Have you got a a structured email marketing campaign with emails that go out, and deal with them at every stage until you get them into a viewing and then converting them into a client. So that is quite important for your following up and to nurture your leads. You need to also take regular breaks. You can't sit for 8 hours and not have any time off. So schedule time off. Have a cup of coffee with the wife. Take her out for lunch. But plan it. Plan it in your schedule, and do that. And when there are weekends and holidays, take time off. If you've got to showers, fair enough. Do the showers, but take time off so that you can recover and so that you're not overwhelmed by this industry. The industry can make or break you, and if you allow it to overwhelm you, it's going to break you, and you're going to fall out of the industry, and that's not what we want. The other thing to do with regarding avoiding burnout is to practice mindfulness. So that you can do via meditation. Mindfulness reduces stress, and it also helps you to improve your decision making. Then a very important one, we all get hooked on social media and WhatsApp messages and things that are really time wasters, and there's no real return on it. And that is to limit your screen time, especially after hours. Avoid checking your emails and social media late at night. Why? Well, that's not going to put you into the state of mind that you need to be to go rest and to get a good night's rest so that you can get up early in the morning and then get on with your things again. So try and limit that, because there is your brain doesn't switch off properly unless you start toning down on those things in the night. And then lastly, in terms of burnout, is seek support. We have mentors within EXP. You might have a mentor in mind. Speak with that mentor, or even a therapist if you feel overwhelmed. And then join a peer group or a mastermind so that you can have shared support. So those are the main 7 points avoiding burnout. Before I go into staying motivated, are there any questions maybe on that, or do you want to add something to that, Stuart?
No, I think that's absolutely brilliant, the way you've gone through that and step by step. We start out with time management, which is important, boundaries, setting up those particular hours. I love the idea of actually making the delegation. It's outsourcing, leveraging technology, leveraging people. And that actually comes right into your last one, which is obviously seeking that support. Nobody succeeds alone. You need the people around you. Those regular breaks is just so important, because the human body can run for 45 minutes in a focused mode, and then in fact it starts to deplete quite dramatically. And if you don't take those breaks, you're actually going to start hitting burnout without you even knowing it. You're overloading yourself. So taking those regular tea breaks, taking a walk away into nature, which is just going outside, by the way, and actually just seeing things around, having a cup of coffee, cup of tea, and actually taking this time is so important. That practical mindfulness, I think, is absolutely superb, because it's our inner mindset that creates a negative talk. It's a negative talk that actually creates levels of stress and anxiety. I can't do this. I don't know how to do this. So that actually brings it back, because you've got those positive meditations that are actually coming through. And then bringing in those time wasters. I have conversations with my son who can sit until 11 o'clock at night, sitting on whatever social media channel it is. And then he wakes up in the morning and says, I'm tired. And I say, well, you know why you're tired? Well, it's actually all of those screen times that's actually getting your brain at a high level activity. And I was actually, before the session, just did some research, which was the average male, and obviously females, the hours are a little bit, I think it's a little bit less or a little bit more, I'm not too sure, but I was looking for myself. So average male needs around about 7 hours of sleep in order for the body to recover. Now, if you're putting in only a couple of hours, well, now your body is going to start to burn out because it doesn't have time to actually recover. Bringing it to that last point, which was seeking that support as well as joining into groups, because joining into groups, human to human contact is so, so important. So I just thought I'd quickly summarize all of that, which I thought was absolutely amazing. Now, you keyed onto the last part, which is staying motivated. What are your tips and tricks on staying motivated, which is actually very difficult?
Absolutely. I'm going to go into that list now. And as I say, I have a checklist on all of this, which I'll send to you, Stuart, and you can decide who should be receiving it. So staying motivated, I've got 8 tips on staying motivated. The first one is you need to set clear, actionable goals. So what do I mean by that? You need to break your big targets into weekly or monthly milestones. So what I've found works very nicely is I work backwards. I say to myself, I want to earn X amount for the month based upon my statistics or based upon industry statistics. For me to do X amount of sales, I need to see X amount of people. And then I'll break it down further. For me to see X amount of people, only there's a certain percentage of people that will grant me their time. So I work on that ratio, and that gives me a target of how many people I need to speak to be able to get to do live presentations, to be able to get to a sale. But I break it down even further. What I do is I put a value onto all those activities. So let's say my goal is 100,000 a month. I then break it down. I divide it by the amount of people that I need to, or sales that I need to do, and then that'll tell me what I earn per month. I break that down into how many people. That'll tell me what every phone call that I'm making or every appointment that I've made, what its value is. So I break it all the way down until it becomes a daily activity, and I put a value onto each one of those activities. Why do I do that? Because we're going to have more no's than yeses. So the next no I get, I know I'm closer to a yes. And I know that if I've spoken to X amount of people today, I'm going to be earning that amount of money. It's straightforward. It's a numbers game. It will happen. And the percentages will get better as your skill improves. And so that's the one thing. The other very, very important thing is to celebrate your wins. You must acknowledge both your large and small accomplishments. So let's look at the small accomplishments. One of the small accomplishments might be you set the goal to speak to 5 people and to get 1 evaluation today. You've achieved that. That's a small accomplishment. So how would you celebrate that? Take a break, have a cup of coffee, walk in the garden, take a drive down to the to the motorcycle shop, which in my case would be my interest. Go have a look at a new motorcycle, come back home and get on with your work again. So how do you stay inspired? The third point, you need to follow thought leaders or motivational content in real estate. And there's a lot of good thought leaders and motivational content. Stuart has got a lot of good stuff going. He's busy with the One Thing, which is a wonderful, wonderful program that you should or could follow. That'll help you to stay inspired, simply because it'll help you to have the mindset of what you need to do in a market that might be depressed. But it'll also help you to understand what to do in a market that is a good market. So follow thought leaders. Maybe on YouTube there are people like Tom Ferry. There's a number of people. Just have a look. Find somebody that you can follow and that you can watch. That can influence your thought and give you some kind of motivational content in real estate. And then attend any local or global industry events. As you know, we have a number of those happening within EXP. So select 1 or 2. Maybe you want to join on the EXP University, but do things, be involved, and then keep learning. Keep learning. Take short courses or certifications to stay sharp. What you learned 3 years ago might not be fully applicable to what is going on right now. So keep up to date with your study. And then study the market trends and innovations. Very important. So you can understand, and the trends in the market differ from market to market. You might be selling in the Western Cape, and you might be saying in Table View, and somebody else might be selling in Howard Pie. The demographic is different there. The market trend is different there. The same thing in Johannesburg. I'm in Johannesburg South. We have a specific trend that's happening. We have a certain price range where most of the sales take place, but that is not the same as what is happening in Sandton. That's completely different. So understand what the trends are in the areas that you want to work in, and if there are any innovations, learn about those innovations. And AI is an innovation. Perhaps look at adapting AI to help you in your business, not to replace you, but to help you in your business. Point number 5, visualize your success. So how do we do that? We create a vision board or goal tracker to stay focused on your why, and see yourself, feel yourself achieving that success. See yourself earning that income that you put your goal for. See yourself buying that car that is in the vision board. See yourself going on that holiday that you yourself with. Feel it, experience it, live it. It'll come true. Then, important, work with ideal clients. So you've got to focus on clients who align with your values and energy. So we spoke earlier about avoiding burnout. If you work with people that are sapping you and there's no synergy between you, it doesn't help to work with them and be frustrated. Rather release them, send them off to your agent who you dislike the most, that they can work with and they can be distracted. But don't waste your time on people who are that don't align with your values and are going to sap your energy. And then we suggest mixing up your work routine or location occasionally to keep things fresh. So maybe come to a coffee shop sometimes to work, or go work at the dam, but change it from time to time so it doesn't become monotonous. We are working. It's keeping you motivated. It's keeping you excited. And the most important part is always reward yourself. Treat yourself when you hit your milestones, be it travel experiences or downtime or whatever, but treat yourself, reward yourself, and that'll continue to build a positive mindset, which will keep you motivated. And that's it. All I have on that.
Wow. Now, talk about so much of an overload that's come through, David. That was actually amazing, because going through, I'm taking notes down and I'm actually going, this is actually amazing as to going through. So for those of you that have actually said, okay, where do I start? Well, I've always said, start with one. Start making that implementation with one of them. Now, what could that one be? Well, maybe it starts out with the clear goals. And one of the one key points that really stood out for me is start identifying the actions to help you achieve those goals, but put a value to it. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Put a value to it, because then you know, hey, I'm doing this activity. I'm actually earning money from that activity, because that will give you that ultimate result. Celebrating wins is such a massive one. And this is something you can do every single day. It can be something as small as, hey, I made a phone call and they said, thank you for calling me. I'd love to see you next week. That's a celebration. Celebrate it. Go and do cartwheels. Go and have a cup of coffee. Go and do something that gives you the reward. I remember I used to make my calls, and at the end of it, I used to have a chocolate. That was my reward. I took a break and I had a chocolate. I'm obviously a chocolate fanatic. Make sure that you're inspired, because there's a big difference between motivation and being inspired. You see, motivation comes from within, and it's motivation comes from outside. Get that the right way around. You have to be motivated in order to do actions, where inspiration comes from within. You can watch somebody, that thoughtful leader, they can tell you words, and that can last you for a week, a month, even a year. That gives you that energy. So definitely follow those thought leaders as you're going through. Attending events is a great way where you can actually meet with thought leaders and have that growth mindset to learn something new. It's that growth mindset that helps you to really blow up and take it to that next level. Now, something interesting, David, that you brought in, which was market trends. And I was really questioning, going, how can market trends actually motivate me? But you actually hit the nail on the head. The more you know about your industry and you're having conversations with people, it actually encourages you to want to learn more. When you're talking to your buyers, you're talking to your sellers, and they're going, so what's happening in this particular suburb? We're looking at moving across. When you can have that high level educated conversation, it really, really works. And using AI as a supporting tool, I think that's two thumbs up. Visualization is massive. Visualizing is something that I work with as a coach. If you close your eyes and you can see the outcome, if you can see the goal and describe it, not just closing your eyes and thinking about a pink elephant, which is very easy, but if you're thinking and you can visualize it in your mind and you can articulate it, it's absolutely important.
Correct.
And one thing that really came out is working with great clients. What is the biggest way to actually lose all your motivation is have those clients that literally are just sapping your energy and you're just falling absolutely flat. It's something that is so important. You're in control of your business. You can choose your particular clients. And as David is doing, he's basically, whether he's working in a coffee shop because of a power outage or whether he's getting on the back of his motorcycle and going for a drive, he's identifying a new location, getting that reward that's actually helping him stay motivated because it gives him that level of excitement. So I know that was a whole lot just summarizing all of that. David, that is, you've given us a lot of information that has really going to assist agents in avoiding that burning out and, staying motivated. I want to thank you for your time. Is there any final thought or comment from yourself just to round off what you shared with us?
Yes, I would say the most important thing when dealing with your clients and maintaining your motivation is learn to say no. It's okay to say no, but do it in a nice way, not in not in a nasty way. Do it in a nice way. It's okay. You can say no.
Absolutely. There we go. So David has given you the permission to say no, which I think is going to be so important for everybody as you're going through. David's giving you that permission. And when you can actually learn to say no in a respectful way, and you start implementing all of the tips and tricks that have been shared in today, well, guess what? You're actually going to start becoming an elite productive agent or an elite productive entrepreneur in the real estate space, thinking outside of the box, being in control, being able to work with the people that you want to work with, working in those boundaries, working that time frame that actually is under your control. It's being in control that reduces the stress. It's being in control that reduces that anxiety. But more importantly, being in control is what actually creates your future. You're the one that's going to be stepping forward. You're the one that's in control of taking that next step. So this is Elite Masterminds, where we bring on board top producing agents that really have understood the struggles, not falling part of that 63% that's been reported as individuals being in the stressed environment, but being part of that 37%, being in control. And actually, well, it's not normal to be burnt out. Take the session, take the information that's been shared today, implement it. If it's only one, just work with that one. And as you go through in your business, you're going to find that you're going to start feeling calmer. You're going to be in more in control, and suddenly you're going to start living a life by design. And that's ultimately where each and every one of you want to be at. So from myself, Stuart, this has been an absolutely amazing session of Elite Masterminds, which is avoiding burnout and staying motivated. So do look out for our next sessions, where we'll be talking to more highly productive agents and seeing what tips and tricks they have that they can share to help you in your particular business.